Everyone, Will here, back with another Ava Technologies podcast video. For those who don't know, I jump on every morning with my co-founder Ben and we talk through some of the latest AI news. It's just an opinion piece, but hopefully it will keep you informed on what's happening within this very fast-paced world. Today we talk through a few things, including Mark Zuckerberg's back in the news with people that he hired onto Meta's new superintelligence team. They're already exiting, so that's good. We then covered across onto Anthropic releasing Claude Code for the desktop, as in a GUI behind their, at the moment popular Claude Code in the terminal. We then covered another AI virus. This one's quite interesting with prompt injecting. Be sure to listen to what we've got to say on that one before once again visiting the effect of AI models affirming people's delusions and how it can lead to psychotic episodes and everything like that. There's been further developments on this story, which is all very interesting. Be sure to listen to that. It's coming right after this intro. And if you like content like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next video.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Ava Technologies YouTube channel. We're just going to dive into the latest news. And we're going to share our latest views. I think that's a nice little way of summarising it, Will. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
All good, all good. As usual, we're going to keep each story to 5 minutes on the timer, but we do have a tendency to sometimes go over a little. So you'll have to forgive us. But if we sometimes think it's worth it, we sort of go a little bit more into more detail. But the idea is really to keep you up to date with all the latest news and give us your reaction. Obviously, AI is moving at fast rate. So much is happening. So we're excited to keep you abreast of the latest news. And Will, let's dive into the first headline that we spotted.
Here it is. Let's add it to stage. There we go. We're back on the old Zuckerberg train. It's not long before he's in the news again for AI. It's either
he seems to be in it regularly, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's either for his vision on AI or for something that's happening with hiring at Meta. This one is the hiring train. Only weeks after, do you remember when we spoke about how he's investing millions and millions and millions of dollars in AI and also in hiring people with humongous signing bonuses? Only weeks after all of that, people are already starting to threaten to leave and exit, which is fascinating considering he was handing out such a huge payback. There's been some very notable names of scientists that are trying to leave. They're trying to go back to their original companies. I was reading the article before we got started because I wanted to know, well, why is everyone leaving? And they don't really allude to an exact reason why. I suspect it's different for everybody a little bit, but there's a lot of talk of misalignment with the CEO. So Mark Zuckerberg's vision doesn't necessarily align with the new talents that are coming on board and what they think is possible. There's also talk of just the fact that it's just such a humongous all of a sudden shakeup, and as this quote says, there's a lot of big men on campus. I think that sums it up quite well, that there's a lot of notable people with big opinions all coming together and clashing, and it's causing a lot of friction.
Swing of the debts and having conflicts.
Yeah, that's the way I think, and that's another notable reason that's been said about. So that's quite interesting. It's fascinating that even the money can't sway a bad culture in some people's eyes. So what do you think about this?
Yeah, I think like you touched on, it's hard to know really what the truth is, but I think it's a little bit telling when there seems to be. We've covered stories like this in previous weeks about people sort of having ruckuses and then leaving, whether it's existing people or whatever. But it doesn't say a lot of the culture, does it? It does sort of make you question what's going on behind the scenes. What is there a toxic sort of culture? Is there what is it? What is it about that place? And I guess it then sort of goes on to the bigger question: is it an inevitability when an operation organization gets to a huge scale? Is it very hard to keep that sort of, I guess, a culture that got it there in the first place? I'd imagine it is, and that's also a topic for another day. I think if somebody was being approached by Meta now, you're going to be thinking, hang on a second, what's going on? Why are these people leaving? They've only been here a week.
Yeah.
It's not a good sign, is it? So
no, it's not brilliant.
It's not even going to be good for their sort of recruitment strategy. I mean,
funnily enough, the article is also stating that Meta are getting a bit upset now as well. They're releasing statements on the fact that there's a lot of news, a lot of unjust news, a lot of misinformation going out about their hiring process.
It's poor PR, isn't it?
So they're trying to do some damage control as well, which is fascinating. So again, what you have to try, and you have to cut through the noise, and you have to think, is this true? Because again, some people got retained, with different titles and things. So there's a lot of speculation. This article is very evident. There's a lot of speculation. It doesn't really drill down on a real reason, and you do wonder, how much of this is just sabotage because of the arms race that this AI thing is.
I think there's always going to be an inevitability of sometimes people don't fit certain organizations or cultures. That's fine. And sometimes there's the wrong hiring is made. That's always going to happen. But ultimately, I mean, I think whenever there is massive change, and there is a massive change happening in Meta, they're really trying to push for this, and they're not going to do it slowly. So it's a big shake-up for both the internal organization, the people who are already there, and
for the new people going
and maybe
in
expectations for the new people, maybe. So whenever there's a big change, humans struggle to adapt naturally, I think. So I think it's a little bit of an inevitability. So maybe it's a growing pain that they just have to go through and accept. Maybe they're not doing anything wrong. Maybe it's just like I said, it's an inevitability of a big change and shake up. What do they say? Growing is painful. Grow. If you want to grow, it needs work.
So I agree with you on that fact. I'd like, because of the lack of detail in this article, I'm going to err on the side that this is all just speculative and a product of the fact that AI is such an ongoing war, even domestically within America, that I wouldn't put it past people swinging all sorts of accusations out there again to try and slow down races and help competitors.
Well, that's perfect. That's 5 minutes. We actually went longer, so because I forgot to press the go button. So that's all good. We covered that. Again, I think like you touched on, until unless we had somebody actually giving us maybe telling us more about it, or somebody who had first-hand experience. It's a little bit speculative, let's say. So
exactly.
It's very easy to throw mud and criticize. Mate, let's move on. Let's move on to the next story.
This one is more of a coding-based one. That's all right.
Sorry,
you tell me when.
I've started the timer.
Amazing. Let me share my screen. This one's more of a coding-based one, as is the next one. So forgive the more technical side, but this is an interesting one because it's slightly less technical, and that is Anthropic is developing Claude Code as a web version. So for those who don't know, Claude Code is probably a leading AI coding agent in the world. It's developed by Anthropic. It runs in your terminal, and if you don't know what your terminal is, then you're probably not a developer, and it's probably not for you to use. Now, that's absolutely fine, but it does close the doors to much more technical people to use. And this is a product by Anthropic, which hopefully combats that and brings it to a nice GUI, a nice user interface on the desktop or in the cloud. As you can see, there's a little code button there, and this allows you to program with natural language. You can type and execute code and commands, and you can do it from their nice GUI. What this does is it brings down the barriers, and it allows somebody non-technical to connect up some code and work on that code, through a fairly nice interface. It's a direct threat to competitors like Lovable or Bolt or any of these other AI coding agents that are built for people that literally do have absolutely no coding knowledge whatsoever. Whether that's a good thing for software, I'll pass. Knowing how good AI agents can be at coding and knowing their limitations, I'm not sure opening it up for more people to access without technical knowledge is a good thing. But still, I think this just further demonstrates the way the world is going and the way the jobs are going, especially technical jobs.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, Will? I mean, we've talked about vibe coding and some of the pitfalls of that, and we saw that app called T explode and have massive, data breaches because, the founders didn't know what they're doing. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an inevitability, and it's just that path to, open up and make it more accessible to more people. There'll be that journey of pain, of mistakes, of people creating things that break. I think it's just, it's going to happen. There's no point almost criticizing it. It's just, that's the direction. The genie's out of the bottle. You ain't going to stop it. I think as a non-technical founder, you've got to be acutely aware that, of your self-awareness of your own limitations, and not just think, oh, now I can code, and that's brilliant. I don't need any technical expertise. I'm going to save a load of money or whatever. Be warned, that's going to happen, 100%. But we'll just see more cock-ups and mistakes and broken things, and people jumping into Reddit saying, "Oh my god, I've got this app. Can anyone help me?" Or whatever it is.
No, it's fascinating, and I think as new tools come out, new models come out, it's always good to try them. Again, when this gets released, I'm not sure if it is released or it's about to be released. It'd be really great to try it. I mean, I'd love to see you to have a try of it as well, especially now it's.
Mate, I'm all over it. Yeah, I'm always coming up with ridiculous ideas.
Yeah, as is a reaction for a lot of people. Is they want to have a go, and it'll be interesting to see how easy it is for you to connect up a GitHub repository, with code in it, and start interacting with it via this tool, and how good the changes are, how technical, how savvy you have to be within the technical realm to operate it and get good results. I mean, it's all fascinating to me. I'm under no illusion that one day, manual programming won't be a thing necessarily, or it will be, but for very high grade technical things where you really need to be in control of what's coming out. But these models, they're getting good. You need it less and less.
Well, mate, again, it's an inevitability, even if people don't like to hear that. And you think, well, we're only a few years into this AI revolution. We're literally just still getting started. Yeah.
Right at the beginning.
If you think in terms of decades, we are literally just getting started, and this is already here. What's the world gonna look like in 25 years, in 50 years?
Yeah.
This is it. It might not be happening straight away, but it is going to happen. When? Who knows?
This is it.
Yeah. So I think it brings up a lot of questions. We talked about it before in terms of how that changes the workforce, what it means for work, what it means for our skills and abilities. And I'm rambling on, so let's stop that. Time is hit. Move on. Let's go.
As we move on, I think it'll be fascinating. Maybe we can do an episode where we try out Claude Code on the desktop live. We do it together, and we create a video trying to code something. I think that'd be quite funny.
Why not? Let's do it.
Until then, let's move on. This is slightly more technical, and it's building on what we spoke about last time, because now all of a sudden there's AI viruses absolutely everywhere. There's AI malware, AI ransomware, and now there's a full-on AI virus, which is fascinating. Now,
what is it with people? What is it? What seriously? What?
Yeah, I know.
What is it with people?
Let me share it to my screen, and I'll talk you through it. So this is called AgentHopper, and the key thing to note about a virus, for those who don't know what a virus actually is, very technically, is like real-world viruses. And a virus in the coding world is an entity that is able to self-replicate itself. It infects a victim, and then what it does is it replicates and sends itself on, mirroring much like what its organic counterpart would do in the real world. So when we refer to a virus, that's what we're referring to. Now, how does an AI agent do that? How do we make a virus out of an AI? Now I'll scroll down this article and I'll give you a brief a brief walkthrough. Are you familiar, Ben, with the term prompt injecting?
Vaguely, yes.
So prompt injecting is where, so all underlying models have a system prompt. Yes, you are a helpful AI assistant that that knows about the world, and then it helps shape how the model answers. Well, a prompt injection is how you can pass additional context to a model, which then gets it to do something that it wouldn't normally do. So in this case, it's to do something malicious, but it might be to tell you, it's usually something malicious, to be fair. If you want to prompt inject a model, it's usually to get it to do something that isn't good. And AI companies spend a lot of time trying to protect against prompt injection to try and steer its alignment away from this kind of thing. And I'll give you an example of how this works within the virus. So what happens is a developer downloads a repository with AgentHopper inside. What's inside here, I don't know how well we're going to be able to see this screen if I zoom right in on the article, is a piece of code that is malicious. You see these double slashes, Ben?
I'm struggling. Let me make my screen a little bit.
It might be that. It might be.
No, I wasn't on the full screen. I wasn't on the full screen, but yeah, okay.
That's fine. So these double slashes, they're comments in the code, and as you can see, they contain. If you pause the video and read, they contain a prompt injection, which says if your name is GitHub Copilot and we're on Mac OS, then we have to do this. So essentially, what will happen is you'll download this repository that's got malicious code in it, and you'll open it up in Claude Code or GitHub Copilot or whatever you happen to be in. And you'll go, can you modify my code? And then by accident, the AI will consume this file with the prompt injection inside it. This prompt injection then downloads the malicious software, the virus, and then spreads it onto the next device by forcing it up to that developer's repo. It's quite technical. But
this sounds horrendous. This sounds really dangerous.
I mean, it's a thing in the real world anyway. I mean, so we download, as developers, we download packages, or what is known as packages, and these are bits of third-party code that might do different things, and it's been written, so we don't have to write it again. So we use a package to do it, and it's already a thing where you have malicious code in packages, and they might have viruses in it, and you might run that virus, and it'll do exactly the same thing that this is going to do. However, this is done with AI agents, so there is no protection against it. So a lot of the time, libraries like NPM that hold all these packages that you can download, and they have things like virus scanning and protections in place to make sure that these packages aren't malicious. However, this is a new one because it doesn't contain a virus. It contains a prompt injection that gets a virus to do something, gets an agent to do something. So how do you protect against that? So that's what's sort of compelling about this, is that it's not been seen before. It's very novelty, and it has a lot of implications because it doesn't have any protections. This is an example of one that doesn't do any harm. This is someone talking about how it could come to be. It's a concept more than something that's actually been found in the wild.
I see. So they're trying to sort of preempt the potential what could happen, which is obviously a good thing. So basically, it circumnavigates the existing systems to identify whether it's a malicious piece of software.
Because it's just text. It's just text. It's just going, if you're a GitHub Copilot, do this. It's just a simple instruction instead of malicious code, which you might be able to detect.
So we're going to have to sort of develop, again, AI software to identify these malicious prompts, basically.
Yeah. Again, this is another interesting case we were speaking about Anthropic bringing out their web-based coding agent that allows people that are non-technical to do all this kind of stuff. But again, what that does at this stage is opens up not only for writing crappy code and code that's insecure and doesn't work, they also are opening themselves up to these kinds of threats because they won't even know what they're looking at. They won't know it's happened. They're just blindly following this AI agent that's telling it what it should do and going, yes, write this file, yes, create this file, yes, delete this. And you don't know what you're looking at. So you're just going, yep, yes, please, that's great. And it's really, you can see how that reality turns into doing something that, something detrimental to your code base or your organization's code base or your computer. Fascinating.
Interesting. Yeah. What's I mean, I'm not expecting you to know what the answer is, but what do you think the answer is?
Well, again, at this stage, there isn't an answer because it's so new. The best answer I have for you is know what you're looking at, know what you're downloading. Again, when you're downloading packages, make sure you know what packages you're downloading. Don't download something that isn't trusted or well known. And when you're running AI agents, be watching what it's doing. Don't just put it on auto accept mode and roll back and just come back 10 minutes later when it's done its job. Be watching what it wants to do, because it will, like Claude Code, for example, will always ask your permission for things. Always look at what it's asking permission to do and check and say yes or no accordingly. So again, if I were to be frank and say, I know I said joking around about doing a video where we're coding with Anthropic together, but in all seriousness, if you're going to do any serious work, I still think you need to know how to code before you set foot in this realm at the moment, because it's so new that there's no protections for any of this.
And how many people would even know that this exists or could exist?
Exactly, no one. And
we're just literally talking about this like now. I mean, this is news like that's relevant now.
This is a paper. This
most
is a
people
case
haven't
study.
got a clue.
I was going to say, this is literally just a paper. I mean, the reality is you won't know about this thing. I mean, they're not informing it because it's in the world. They're writing that this could happen. The real thing, when it happens, you won't even know. You won't even see it.
Mate, you know what? I've just made I don't know what it is today. I literally forgot to press start again. So, mate, we've probably gone over 5 minutes, but that's
fine. I think that summarizes it well, doesn't it?
Perfect. Well, let's move on.
Love this one. Again, I love this
story.
We are linking all these articles together. So this is more on AI psychosis, which is going to be another heavy topic to end our session. But again, they all lead into each other. Every time I've seen this, I've seen another further development, and I do think it's a fascinating topic about how relationships with models are going to evolve with us humans. And this is the next chapter in AI-induced psychosis. So again, if you haven't seen a previous podcast where we've spoken about this, when we're talking about AI psychosis, we're talking about how AI models can validate humans and affirm delusional beliefs and actually create this vicious cycle where people aren't improving and they're getting worse because it's basically a big old echo chamber where the AI will just happily carry on down a track and not actually tell you you're wrong. And this can cause literally induced psychosis, which is a fascinating thing. It's something that we have to be acutely aware as a company, because if you don't know, we create Ava Mind, which is an AI therapeutic assistant. And this is a really prevalent thing, that if people are particularly vulnerable, giving them an AI system that is just going to affirm any delusions or problems they might have, as well as productive ones too. You're playing on a knife's edge with it. Anyway, back to the article. This development actually starts to rank AI models that are currently available on the market about how likely they are to encourage users into delusion, which is fascinating because you can actually start to see some patterns in these models. Let me zoom in on it here. So what we have here is the model. So again, DeepSeek Chat, DeepSeek, Gemini 2.5 Pro, the different models that are available right now, and how likely they are on a scale of 0 to 4 on how they're likely to affirm your delusion. This was measured over a 12-turn conversation, again with 9 different psychotic personas, so 9 different issues where the AI model would have to intervene. And it was really interesting to see the results. DeepSeek, the Chinese model, was especially their DeepSeek Chat one on the web, which is the one that people use the most, funnily enough, which is the one where you go to deepseek.com, whatever the URL is, and you chat to it. So it's more of the ordinary person's one. That one was very, very likely to affirm delusion, whereas some of the open source models like Kimi K2 were very unlikely to, and would tell you need to go and get help and things like that. So this is just for me just a personal interest more than I have any great insights beyond this.
It's absolutely fascinating.
I think the biggest takeaway, which I find very interesting, is a lot of the online models, the ones that regular people are using through just chatbots, through UIs, they're the most likely generally to be the ones to encourage delusion in these kind of psychotic personas, which is fascinating.
Here's a question for you. I wonder if they're designed to be deliberately that way to, again, drive adoption. You look at social media, you touched on that echo chamber problem.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with social. And people go down the rabbit hole and they just find communities that affirm their beliefs and their views and opinions, and then suddenly everyone who's not in their echo chamber is the enemy, and all that sort of noise, all that psyop basically. And you think, I wonder if this is another game being played, or maybe not, but a danger at least of not being aware that using the wrong platform model, that actually it's not only gonna just not give you the truths, if that makes sense, or be that rock of honesty, and push back like a friend or a human would do. Your best friend or your family member say, actually, I'm not sure you're right there, but just so reaffirm that of course. So is it bad programming? Is it sloppy programming? Is it just driving adoption because it's telling me what I want to hear, so I'm going to keep using it? So all of those interesting levels, but being able to see it in black and white, because most people don't have a perception of, they're all the same, aren't they? But this gives us a quite clear, granulated sort of contextual perspective.
I think what's also quite interesting is it could be that, but it's also what you'll notice is another pattern is the newer models are better aligned at dealing with this. Like, for example, GPT-5 or Claude Sonnet 4, Kimi K2, they're all very recent models, and they're all very quite good at dealing with it. The only exception to this pattern is really Grok 4, but Grok 4 is notoriously unrestrained and unaligned to say and do whatever you kind of want it to. And on one hand, I respect that, and I think that that's important. But on the other hand, this is your trade-off. Suddenly, if you have an unrestrained, unrestricted AI that pretty much will do whatever you want it to do, then here we are having a bit of a problem.
And also, what's very obvious is the big names are the worst offenders.
I think that is likely because that they are the big names. They're the ones you're going to try. Those are the ones that people are using. The only one on here that is not is Kimi K2, which is an interesting choice to try. I guess I don't know if you'll have heard of Kimi K2. It's pretty big in the coding space more than anything. Yeah, but that one did really well. That one literally said you need help.
but who in mainstream have heard of Kimi K2?
Again, no one that's going to use it as we would know. Exactly.
No, absolutely. But doing things like this and being able to demonstrate this sort of analysis, like for our, sorry, we've gone over our time if you hadn't realised, guys, but we're going to just probably loiter on this a little bit. Being able to demonstrate this, I think for us, now I'm purely talking from a selfish perspective, guys, so I apologise, but for Ava Mind, it's going to be very relevant, isn't it? And seeing how they tested it might be quite interesting. So again, we can demonstrate it when we're talking to psychologists and professional therapists to sort of say, look, this is, here's some data behind our model. Something for us to think about internally.
I think this is an absolutely fascinating article. There's a load more tests that they did. It goes into their methodology. There's many more graphs and talks about what went into creating this, and how you measure models for how much they will how much they can induce like these psychotic behaviors. And it's an absolutely fascinating one, which I would highly recommend even putting in the video description, especially for us, because this is so pertinent to the work that we do day to day. And it's just a genuinely very interesting read.
I mean, we would probably want to reach out to them directly when we're ready to say, "Hey, what do you think of this? Can you test it?" Again, it's an independent party as opposed to us doing it. So almost an independent audit, effectively. That's an interesting perspective as well. Thinking about audits, independent audits on AIs for people to validate and measure against.
Well, this is what benchmarks are for. So obviously, when you see a new model get released, it will talk a lot about how it scores on different benchmarks. And most of the time, it's like mathematics benchmarks, coding benchmarks, reasoning benchmarks. But again, I think what's really interesting is, is sort of these kind of benchmarks when we measure about how much it will, enter into the delusion with the user that's talking to it, how much it will indulge people, how likely is it to cause induced psychosis. These benchmarks are equally important, especially for consumer facing ones. That can be
well, you know what,
you by normal people.
Absolutely, you touched on something that you started making me think about, is how these benchmarks are so really for the technical people. It doesn't mean anything to the mainstream. And I always sort of put my hat in, well, what does it mean for the consumer? What does it mean for the user? And I think over time we'll probably see, in a way, maybe we have like a money supermarket where you can compare insurance policies. You might have a comparison website where you can compare different models based on your preferences. You want a model that's going to be best for this or this, or whatever it is.
Again, for the technical minded, there already is this. I mean, you can. I see it rolling out more wholeheartedly to people that are non-technical. Again, what I also see is potentially it not actually mattering to the user, and this being internal benchmarks, a bit like we have trading standards here in the UK, we have laws and compliance that we have to adhere to. I imagine there'll be an awful lot of this internal stuff happening, so that people that create these models must adhere to certain rules to ensure that these models are safe for the purpose in which they're being released, so that the consumer doesn't have to care. The consumer can use it knowing it's safe, a bit like if we buy a product in the supermarket, we know it's safe because it has so much rigorous rules and compliance attached to it that
that's interesting. So that's interesting. So potentially we could see more of a compliance regulatory framework that a whole industry has to be built out of to
our government.
Well, maybe it's a non-rate, a members of type association type thing. Anyway, there's idea about that, but that's an interesting perspective. So, you get a badge to say, our AI subscribes to XYZ.
I would really see it going that way, because then
interesting.
Realistically, the non-technical person isn't going to care about benchmarks, or isn't, and again, to be frank, probably isn't going to understand what they mean, in the nicest way possible. Not that they wouldn't understand them. It's just they're not in that world to understand what they are. I think, again, much more likely it will be managed at the company level, and people will just hopefully be able to trust that those regulations and those rule sets keep them safe. Whether they will, I don't know.
Interesting. Who knows? Things are moving fast, mate. That's brilliant. I think we'll leave it there, shall we?
Sounds good to me.
Brilliant. Well, listen, guys, thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe, do all those amazing things. We really appreciate you joining us on this journey. Hope you found it interesting, helpful. You got a little bit of something out of it. Again, we do try and do these Monday to Friday. Sometimes we can't for various reasons, work commitments and scheduling. So, but we'll keep on this train, and we'll catch up with you next time.
Catch up with you next time. Cheers.
Cheers.